Hi guys, this is Karthik from Caapid Simplified. I know it's been quite a while that you're waiting for this video. It's been almost 10 days since we had our webinar with Dr. Joey, where we promised there would be an exclusive video on how do you tackle Zoom interviews. With only 2 days left for the CEO interview, I hope this last minute video is valuable and you could use some tips out of here if you haven't already done your research. So let's go into what's the most easy and simple tips that you can quickly follow. First and foremost, something which everybody mentions is for you to test your Zoom connection. So open Zoom on your phone and on your laptop, and on both devices, check the audio reception, see which one works better. Generally, it works better on your phone if you have mobile internet and if you have Wi-Fi issues in your place. Or alternatively, you can choose, if your Wi-Fi is strong and your mobile internet sucks at your home, then you might want to switch options. If you know there's a neighbor that you would want to visit who has good Wi-Fi connections, kindly do that. It might be a good sound option, because Zoom, if the internet drops, it not just temporarily disables the connection, but it closes the window entirely, and you'll have to reload all over again. That's a big pain, even for the interviewers who have to wait considerable amount of time for you to come back. So please check your connections at the very beginning. A second thing is the options of audio. So within Zoom, you have different audio call options. And so one is called a trunk call, where you can dial into a secure number. And then a second one is to choose computer audio. And a third one is for asking Zoom to call you on your phone. Currently, because of COVID-19, since the call volume going into Zoom is extremely high, Zoom only has a limited bandwidth of trunk calls, meaning they can only make so many successful calls from their system or to their system from the phone. Everything else has to be routed through voice over IP or your computer audio. It is preferable, therefore, to use computer audio to speak. Your computer might more often than not have a very good sound reception, and there'll be absolutely no break or lag between the phone voice and the video that's being captured. So I would highly prefer you to do computer audio, or if you're dialing through your phone and keeping Zoom, then dial through internet audio. Do not use your call option, because it's not a pleasurable experience. Pre-test it with a couple of friends, and you might want to preferably choose people in different time zones in the US and test it with them. Maybe like 1 or 2 tests. That would be sufficient just for you to know the interface and see how it works. There are some additional options in Zoom apart from the chat feature, which you can use, like raising your hand to answer and so on. So just if you can quickly familiarize yourself with these options while speaking, that would be super helpful. A quick couple of tips on equipment. So among the different options you have to use Zoom, iPads are the best, tablets are the best. But if you have a laptop and you don't have a tablet, then laptops are the second best, and primarily because of where the camera is positioned. In a tablet, the camera will be positioned to the side, even though the camera has better clarity. But on a laptop, the camera will be positioned to the top, but it has much lower clarity and much lower sound reception. Contrastingly, if you were to go for a phone, that would be the least preferable option because of just the viewing size, and the orientation that you might keep it in might be portrait or landscape, but the viewers might see it in the landscape view. So this might create some conflict. So go for your tablet, that's the most preferable. Second is your laptop. For your laptop, it's better to use headphones, earphones to listen. Just make sure that there is no echo in the room, there's no reverberation. And you can use Alt and A to go on mute and unmute as and when you speak. Muting and unmuting is a very, very effective means to speak, even though it's largely a panel to you conversation. So having said that, we discussed equipment in terms of which equipment you're going to use for display and speaking. tablet, laptop, and phone. And then if you're using a tablet or laptop, kindly use earphones. And what about mics? So one mic that we prefer is called the lavalier mic. And I'm going to quickly open that up for you so that if you want to, you can buy it if you can in the next couple of days. The lavalier mics are pretty simple. You get it in a lot of different price points, the cheapest being $9. And you have like one lavalier one for like a couple of higher prices, $24 and so on. But this is available across countries, and this is highly preferred. It's small. You can just plug it into your collar, and it would work miracles in terms of capturing voice, cutting out noise, and so on. This is as good even to record powerful YouTube videos. If you have an Apple iPad, there are some sound eliminating options, background noise eliminating options, but if you don't have one, no problem. Just sit in a quiet room and use a mic like this. We are not promoting this, by the way. Okay. Next, what do you want them to see? So if you are going to project yourself, you could, one option you could do, and which is not preferred, is something like this, a virtual background. It would cut off everything else in the background, it would blur the background and just kind of show you your silhouette. This, however, this option, however, is not preferred for virtual interviews. The reason being, it kind of creates this feeling of inauthenticity, that you might be hiding something from the interviewers. Clearly, there is so much you can hide in a virtual interview, yet it creates a feeling of inauthenticity, and therefore it's not preferred. What you can simply do is sit against a plain background. There's some light here, which might be irritating for the interviewer, but just sit against a plain background, something of a pleasant color that contrasts with your color again. That would be much more than sufficient. One strategy that you can use is, when you choose to think about backgrounds, is to think of a hollow background. So if I were to turn my laptop and just, like show you guys quickly, if I were to turn my laptop in and just leave it into the open, even that creates a sense of, having a room behind you, having space behind you, and therefore it creates an actual sense of an interview room for the interviewer. Like they are seeing a big room in which there's one interviewee. Everything else is visible to them, so it creates a sense of authenticity and trust. And then they are speaking to you. So, like I said, either a plain wall or a big hollow behind you. Both of these are extremely good options. In terms of positioning the camera, you would want to position it at your chest. Now, some people would want to show their shoulders and above, but chest and above is preferable. The reason being that if you are a person who likes to gesticulate or with your hands, move your hands around, it would be pretty visible only if you keep it from your chest and up. So there has to be some clearance above your head only to make sure that you center your face in the screen. So if you're going to stop at your chest and stop at some distance above your head, your face will be pretty much at the center with a considerable clearance on every side. So it'll give you room to move your hands, and it'll not be like a sudden disturbance that comes up. It'll be a constant movement that they can see and observe. So kindly remember that it's not just your face that they're seeing, they're also trying to observe some body language, some body movement, and the least that you can convey that is through your general confidence, your hands, and finally, and most importantly, your smile. Just keep that going. So we've spoken about what the interviewer has to see. No virtual backgrounds. They would want to see your chest and above and some clearance above. They would want to see your moving hands. We said the background could be plain or it could be hollow. And a pretty important thing to remember is that they don't see you, right? So if they don't see you, what do they see? They see what your camera sees. And by this, I mean that if you aren't facing your camera, and if you are facing at your own face on the screen, can you see like my eyes droop down versus I'm looking at the camera now? If you're looking at yourself and observing yourself, they're going to see somebody with their eyes lower. they can only see what the camera sees. So to keep recalling that. In fact, stick that next to your camera. My interviewer's eyes, stick it over there. They see what the camera sees, so make sure that you see the camera, and it creates this artificial sense of eye contact, even though it's virtual. This might further be pronounced if you're using a tablet in which the camera is at one corner and it's more panoramic. So if your camera is panoramic and it's a wide angle lens and the camera is to one corner, it could be quite difficult for you to look into that camera rather than focus on what's on screen. Because you'll also want to see the interviewers and them speaking to you at the same time you're trying to focus on the camera. So try to use something where the camera is at a position close to your interviewers so that you don't have to like move up and down and move up and down. One way to do that is to keep your tablet in landscape mode rather than portrait mode. So that all you have to do is a slight movement in your eyes and it would be hardly noticeable. Okay, so we've spoken about equipment. We've spoken about what your interviewer must see. And now let's go to speaking style. When it comes to speaking style, there is one word that all experts use. It's a word called gesticulation. In a regular interview, we use the word articulation. And articulation means to convey your thoughts very effectively crafted through words. Gesticulation, however, is to emote, to animate, to not be stoic, to bring out the emotions with that movement and energy and smile and so on. Watch Dr. Jui's video for how she emotes. She is terrific at emoting. I'm going to quickly. So can you see that all of them are gesticulating, and that creates a big impact. That movement, that energy that they bring is far more than articulation. So articulation would be to say that, hey, yes, that experience was extremely difficult. It was a moving time for me. I had not been through something like this in the past, and yet I believe that experiences shape a human being, just like art shapes a scientist, something like that. So it's putting cohesive words and conveying something. That's articulation. But gesticulation is not that. Gesticulation is saying, yes, that moved me completely. It was a very different experience. I had been only through one such experience before, but community service, it was more than something that I was doing mandatorily. It was something that I steadily invested time in, learned, and improvised upon. So can you see the difference? So there's these additional effects that I can bring to this two-dimensional medium, which may not be captured only through proper vocabulary, grammar, and speaking in a stoic position. So if you are going to wear clothes, like you're obviously going to wear a suit, a dress, or a hijab, or whatever is your preference, if you're going to wear those clothes, if it's going to constrict movement, and if you're going to stay in the same place, you're probably not going to be successful at gesticulation. Some people, and this is again something you have to test, is to try to wear your spectacles and see if your eyes are getting lost. Sometimes it's without your spectacles. Like with spectacles, I'm not able to see my eye movement and show the power of contrast without the eyebrows moving. But without the spectacles, I can now see how my eyes are moving, my excitement, my anger, my confusion, and so on. So you might want to remove your specs if it's possible and speak without it, because it's a very powerful form of gesticulation. Try to stay animated. One way you can test this is by going to Zoom, trying to record yourself, or trying to record yourself on a camera, but do it on mute. If on mute, you're able to still get the emotions conveyed, then it would be a terrific thing. So Karthik, tell me about a weakness. Can you see, I'm trying to speak about what I want to do, but doing it on mute, and I'm trying to test for myself if even on mute, I am conveying something. If that can happen, you are probably gesticulating well. Just do 3-4 practices and that will do. You don't have to become somebody else in the process of trying to gesticulate. What's most important is that you understand that it's a two-dimensional medium. You're going to be as stoic as the interviewer who's sitting there with his, suit. So you might want to show more movement and more emotion, more animation. All right. Another key thing to remember while speaking is to take a pause. Taking pauses are extremely important, and more important is asking for pauses. If they ask you a question right off the bat and you're not sure when to start answering, it's much more easier in a small room where you can say, "Oh yes, okay, sounds good," and then you can continue. Or you can, like a typical American manager, you can say, "I don't know, but really this is what I feel, thinking at the top of my head," and so on. You can create such fillers in a real interview room to figure out when to start speaking. But if you do not know in a Zoom call, which happens more often, it's better to ask them, "Oh, I would love to address that. Can I take a minute? Um, I just need a couple of seconds to think. I'm going to probably conjure my thoughts over the next few seconds. Do you mind if I take a pause and get to this question? Thank you." It's a very interesting question. Let me answer. So use these additional pause-based filters to gauge when to speak and to organize your thoughts and shoot at once. If you were to say multiple fillers in Zoom, it's very, very apparent. If I would say, "Yes, I'm thinking," so like the filler words that you use are more pronounced on a visual medium. What you would want to do is instead swallow those fillers and use pauses. To think of this is to think of it as rather simple is complicated. So what I might do in such a situation, can you see I was basically swallowing wherever I would use a filler word and instead replaced it with a pause. If you want some quick training, probably we'll give you a phone call. I know your interview is on Saturday, so if you want like some quick Friday interview preparations, you can give us a call and practice for 10 minutes. And we don't want to charge you for those 10-minute calls, but I think we can quickly do a demo. Attire. Attire, you all know, go to the Zoom call just like you would go to a regular interview. If you are a guy and you want to wear a tie, and the tie is not at your collar, it would be extremely visible. So, because earlier the frame was the entire room and you were one object within it. Now the frame is your face. So your tie, if it's loose and the button is visible, that would be so much more visible on the Zoom camera. If you can, cut your hair at the top, simply because if you had flowing hair, the camera can peer through it. So if I was a typical guy, you would be able to see all the way to my forehead. So either pull your hair back, or alternatively, just cut your hair or tie your hair, something like that. This is for guys. Girls, I'm not sure. I think just do your regular tests that you would do with the selfie camera on as to how you look, and you should be fine. Next important thing about speaking is to think about clarity over coherence. It's okay to speak slower. It's okay to take pauses. It's okay to wait and pace your words as long as you are clear. Clarity is so much more important on a visual medium rather than being coherent with different sentences. So if they can go from sentence to sentence that you are speaking, that you are gesticulating, and they can clearly understand what each sentence means, what its weight is, that is what is most important. So think about clarity. Again, use a sticky note, use a yellow color sticky note. I generally stick one near my camera, one that says interviewer's eyes and one that says clarity. That'll remind me to focus on the camera and to ask questions around taking pauses and slowly deliberating the answer. Uh, One key problem that happens in Zoom meetings is crosstalk. You speak, they speak, you speak, they speak, simply because none of you know when to talk one after the other. So instead of talking one after the other, you crisscross or you know overlap each other, which will create a lot of confusion. And then after the overlap, everybody goes to a standstill. A simple technique that has always worked for me on office calls is to raise my hand and just say, "Hmm, I want to add on to this. That's a very interesting question. Can I take a minute and answer?" I would pause, and they definitely respond looking at my hand. They're like, "Why is this hand up here?" And they would say, ask, "Do you want to say something?" And yes, of course. And then start speaking. So your hands, like regular hands, raising them would be very effective. You can even call that out and say, "I've faced a lot of crosstalk on Zoom calls, and I thought raising my hand would be a much better way of signaling to you that I have something to convey, and also give you the opportunity to finish what you were saying, because I respect you completing your sentence." Something like that. Okay. The last thing to keep in mind, this is point number 6 under your speaking style, is to match or overdo the tone and energy of your interviewer. So just simulate your interviewer. If they are excited, stay excited. If they are stoic, you don't have to stay stoic, but I'm saying you pretty much want to beat them at excitement. So if you are not impressed by them gesticulating well or showing energy on that call, they're pretty much not going to be impressed with you doing the same if you're matching their energy level. So always try to overdo their energy level. Those are the 6 points on speaking style. One is gesticulation versus articulation. Number 2, take pauses and ask for time. Number 3, think about your attire. And especially what comes above your chest. Number 4, clarity over coherence, and write a sticky note and stick it next to your camera that says clarity. Number 5 is avoid crosstalk by raising hands. And number 6 is to match or overdo your interviewer's energy level. If any of this has been difficult to grasp, don't worry. Like I said, you can refer to the notes below this video where I'll post these bullet points very fast. And also you can give us a call on Friday to do like a quick mock session without any charges. So with these two, I hope you do really, really well in your Zoom interviews, whether at CEO or anywhere else. All the best, guys. Thank you. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to us.